The U.S. Icelandic Horse Congress is honored to support young Black equestrians in its community building and horsemanship. Icelandic horses are a versatile and fun breed with a great sense of community and support here in the U.S. Learn more at www.icelandics.org.
I'm Ivan McClellan. I take photos of Black people in the West, and you're tuned in to Young Black Equestrians.
I am a young.
And I am
A young black.
A young Black
equestrian.
Equestrian.
Black equestrian.
Black equestrian.
Black equestrian.
I'm a young Black equestrian.
I am a young black equestrian.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Young Black Equestrians with your host, Abriana Johnson. I am happy today to be joined with the infamous 8 Seconds. If you follow him on Instagram, if you know his name is Ivan McClellan. Welcome to the show, Ivan.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be on here. Thank you for spending some time with me.
Of course. So for the people who aren't aware of who you are and what you do, just give us a brief rundown of what Ivan does now.
I'm so bad at this. I'm a I'm a photographer, and I take photos at rodeos and ranches across the country. I've been mostly in Oklahoma and Texas, but I've been to Arizona, to Philly, to everywhere, just sort of documenting Black cowboy culture. And I've been at it for about 6 years. The work has been in magazines and museums, but I mostly do it for my kids so that they know that Black cowboys are real and they matter and they are relevant today. And I do it so that when they draw a picture of a cowboy, they'll color it in with a brown face.
Yeah. So let's go back to the beginning, because I am aware a little bit of your story. So let's talk about where you were before Black cowboys became an integral part of your life.
So I don't even know where to start. I was an actor. I lived in New York for 6 years, and then I was going to a Doritos commercial one day, and I was like, "This is stupid." So I went home to Kansas City and started a career in design, and that was great, but not necessarily as creative as I thought it was going to be. So one day I picked up a camera. I was going to Turkey on vacation, and a friend of mine borrowed me his camera, and I started taking pictures at that moment and just like fell in love with it. And that was about 12 years ago. And I went through a long phase of taking bad pictures of landscapes and weddings, and I got into street photography, just walking up to strangers and taking their photos, which was one of the most important parts of my development, and sort of learned that skill set, how to get a good photo like anywhere that I was at. And right around that time, I ran into Charles Perry, a filmmaker, and he was telling me that he was making a documentary about Black cowboys, and I kind of laughed at him because I was like, that's not a thing, man. Like, I've seen Gunsmoke and Bonanza, and Black cowboys aren't real. And he was like, well, come with me and take some photos at this rodeo in Okmulgee. And I just went there and was blown away. There were thousands of Black cowboys there, and just the style and the energy and the music and the athleticism, all of those things just hooked me right away. And I kept going back.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I'm familiar with Charles Perry. He has a grand vision, and I absolutely love that as well. So now you're taking pictures of these Black cowboys, and you know that they exist. What kind of empowered you to start telling their stories visually?
It initially was just, it was very selfish, and it was very like about me up front. I was in Portland, Oregon, and I wasn't tapped into the Black community here, which is small but tight. Like every Black person in Portland is an activist because they have to be.
Mm-hmm.
But when I moved here, you know, I was working in design and I just wasn't in that community at all. So I would go weeks without seeing another Black person, and I was just like really, really isolated
Mm-hmm.
and separated from the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also like working a desk job, and I was just had these like really soft hands, and was just like uh, had bad posture. And you know, so this rodeo really came along at a time not only for me artistically but me personally, where I needed it, where it was like, oh, I can be just surrounded by Black culture, and I can be as far away from a computer as I can imagine a rodeo is. And I kept going back for those reasons, just because I was like, when I just got tired of Portland, I was like, I'm going to a rodeo. I'm done with you people.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just up and go. It really became about documenting the stories and telling these folks stories a little bit later. Like, oh, for the first 3 years, I didn't even share any of the photos. They didn't even really go online.
Mm-hmm.
I just sort of took them and archived them.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until about 2019 that I started to share them, and I started 8 seconds. And the reception was like, people were like me. They were like, wow, I can't believe that this exists. I can't believe that this is a thing. People were
Yeah.
shocked.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make it a mission to eliminate that shock, for
Mm-hmm.
it to no longer be remarkable that there are
Right.
Black cowboys, for it to be obvious and well known.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I set out with the goal to saturate the internet with images of Black cowboys,
Mm-hmm.
so that it was easy to find, it was in your face,
Mm-hmm.
and it just completely disrupted the narrative of the white cowboy, and kind of ended that permanently.
Yeah. Yeah. You said several things that I'm just like, yes, disrupt. Yes, all of that. Scroll stopping. Like that is something that I think of when I come across images that are yours, and I can tell immediately that it's yours. How do you feel like the community received you, or kind of, you know, because like those are like my people, and I know how it can be with like new people coming in and being like, oh, like who's that? Because we a lot of people know each other, right? So how do you feel like the community received you when you kind of got down there and then you were like, let me take pictures of you?
Well, the first rodeo I went to in Okmulgee, I was wearing wingtips and khakis and a short sleeve linen shirt that was very wrinkled, and it was 105 degrees, and I was sweating so hard you can see through my shirt, and I looked crazy. um and I was just like rolling up to people like asking them, tell me your life story and let me take your photo.
Mm-hmm.
Oddly enough, people were really receptive and kind and open and willing to share their story. I leaned on many fences with many cowboys and heard their life story, or heard what's important to them, and they were so eager to offer me a bottled water because I really needed it, and to share a smile and let me take their photo. So I mean, it was a little bit surprising, but also I grew up in Kansas City, Kansas, and Okmulgee is about 4 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times I would see guys with like KC tattoos, or and ask them where they're from, and they would be like, "Oh, I'm from Kansas City, Kansas." I'd be like, "Where are you from?" They were like, "I'm off of 58th in Georgia. I'm off of 57th in Georgia." Like, we were just like really, a lot of the folks that I met, we went to the same high schools, we went to the same church, you know, we knew the same folks. And so it was me tapping into my own community, but in a way that I didn't know anything about. Like, it was like this whole cowboy community had been sitting right under my nose my whole life, and I had never paid any attention to it. Like, in retrospect, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess Mr. Wills did have cows. Yeah, Bobby and them did used to ride horses in them, but I never thought of them as cowboys. I just never made that connection. So, you know, long story short, the community has been really receptive. It's to the point now that, you know, I show up at a rodeo and people are rolling up to me asking to take their photo. And I'm like really, really a part of it. And it's something I'm super grateful to be involved with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like when one of the biggest parts of being able to share this kind of work is that people are looking for that community. And so in, you know, all types of content that is shared around the Black community, or the Black cowboys nowadays, it's those people who are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this existed, or I'm interested in this, but I didn't even know other people were. Do you get a lot of stories like that, messages, comments, things like that?
Yeah, I've gotten it from other Black cowboys, you know, that live in areas where they're the only Black cowboy, and they're like, "What? I had no idea. You know, I felt like I was the only like Eskimo out here, and there's a whole tribe of people. I've got to go to a rodeo." I met a basketball player up here, plays for the Portland Trailblazers, and his daughter barrel races in Oregon. And he found my work and was like, you know, I showed this to my daughter and she was just blown away. She really thought she was the only one. And she feels less isolated and she wants to go compete in the Bill Pickett now. Like, so I've definitely got it from Black cowboys. I get it from white folks all the time, obviously, because they don't know at all that this exists. But you know, Black people as well are like, oh, you know, wow, what our culture is so varied, and I'm so proud that this is a part of who we are. So yeah, just exposing people to it is a huge part of the work.
Yeah. When you're doing work with bigger companies, I feel like one of the biggest well, let me rephrase that. What do you feel is one of the biggest challenges when you are being asked to shoot particular cowboys or work on different campaigns and things with some of these bigger brands?
It's fraught in a lot of different areas. It's complex, and for a long time it was something that I just didn't want to get into. I was just like, this is art and this isn't commerce. But you know, the brands kind of kept coming, and I found that a lot of them were authentically eager to diversify and to sort of change their public image away from, you know, really a white supremacy like centered like image of the West to one that was more varied and more complex. They're not doing it out of like some noble cause. They're doing it because that's what their audiences demand, is that they kind of see a more varied view of the West. But in me sort of taking on brands, and I've worked with a lot of big Western brands from Ariat to Wrangler to Tecovas, Stetson. In working with them, you know, I own the work. I creative directed. So I sort of tell them how we're going to shape and portray these folks and the story that we're going to tell. I'm really like adamant that I sort of have creative control, because I don't want them to just be like, here's what we're going to do. You just go and click the shutter and then we own the photos. No, I own the photos and I dictate the creative direction. And then really I negotiate and set up the pay structure for the deals. So I get paid, I don't work for likes. I don't work for clothes. I work for cash. And then I make sure that the talent in the photos gets paid as well.
Yeah.
So they get the likes, they get the clothes, and they get the cash. And then beyond that, for rodeo folks, I try as best I can to make sure that they're in conversations about sponsorship, because it's like you can't just like be like this big brand using this barrel racers image,
right,
and having them sort of promote your product without like giving them some meaningful support in competition that they desperately need, and it's so rare for black rodeo athletes. So I've just like served as like agent and manager in these deals, and made sure that they're as equitable as possible, so that it's not just like a brand exploiting a culture for their own gain. It's sort of mutually beneficial for everybody involved.
right. So I get this a lot when parents are looking for support for their kids on their equestrian journey, or new, or I mean, I wouldn't even say new, but equestrians, cowgirls, cowboys, people that want to compete at a high level, and they're looking for that kind of sponsorship relationship, or they are being approached by brands and wanting them to feature them on their website, stuff like that, the whole tagging them in every image that they post, that kind of thing. What advice can you give to these people, these aspiring horse people, when talking to these big brands? Because not everybody's gonna have an Ivan there to really dictate or mitigate the conversation. What advice could you give them?
I would say number one, just like be confident in your brand. Like, you're a black equestrian, you're a black Western athlete. You're rare and extraordinary, and you bring a lot of value for any brand that wants to collaborate with you, or any brand that's lucky enough to collaborate with you. So just really letting these folks know that what they have to offer is worth more than what the brand has to offer, because there's somebody, if you're competing and you're doing a good job, and you're at the level of getting a sponsor, like, there aren't a lot of you. There's just a handful, and so a brand should be lucky to work with you. Two, just being persistent and professional is really something important that I kind of tell folks. Even after you get the sponsorship, even after they agree to sponsor you, you have to let the brand kind of know what's going on with you constantly. You have to say, hey, I won this championship, I won this buckle, I qualified in this thing. I got a new horse. Here are moments in my career that are interesting for you to share, or interesting content for you to put out there.
Right.
The brand wants you to, the brand wants you to be a brand as well, and they really want it to be a partnership.
Right.
And so making sure that you have a clear point of view, that your social media is brand ready and appropriate. I mean, I've seen like a young bull rider, and he's at the level that he's probably ready for sponsorship. He's performing really well, but you go on his Instagram and he's got pictures with AK-47s, and he's like wild out. He's a wild kid. He's cussing, and he's really not the level that a Wrangler is going to kind of want to put their name with him, because his social media is not there. So in a lot of ways, you have to operate and manage your brand as if you're already where you want to be. You kind of gotta talk and present yourself in a way that a brand can just kind of come in and put their logo on your content, and they're good to go.
Yeah.
For me, when I'm working with a brand, particularly a new brand, there's a lot of heritage Western brands that I'm going after this year. I come to them with a complete story. I come to them with like, here's the athlete, here's what we're going to do, here's what's going to be the caption, here's when we're going to release it, and it's just all packaged up. All I need from you is money. Yeah. And I'm just going to go and execute this vision like completely. So just being that level of like sort of prepared and professional, I think is really critical. These brands are lazy and they don't want to do the work. They just want content. Yeah. So yeah, those are some of the things. I would say the most important thing for an athlete is just being persistent and being overly communicative with the brands.
Yeah. That's great advice. So let's talk more about your work. I mean, you mentioned museums. I know that you have a book out or coming out. What kind of inspired you to take it that far?
When I started doing the work, when I started 8 seconds and I started putting the work out there, it was on Instagram mostly. I'm not big on social media. It's just not my thing. People don't know what I look like. You know, I talk to people on the phone all the time, and I'll call you on the phone. I love talking on the phone. It's like my jam. I'm good at it. I can be on the phone for hours, but people don't know who I am. They don't know what I look like because I'm never on social media. I've never gone live in my entire life, and I never will. And when I meet them, they're like, I thought you were like 70. They were like, you were on the phone, like talking about apple pie turnovers. And you talk so slow. And I had no idea you were like a young guy. I was like,
dang, not 70 though.
I've gotten that a couple of times, like recently, where people were like, I thought you were much older than you are. So, you know, that's just because I'm not good at promoting myself. You know, I'm really not. I'm good at promoting the work, but me, like, I stay out of the way. And I'm like, man, look at this good-looking cowboy. Look at Kerry Hines. Look at this handsome 6'5" young black man. You don't need to be looking at me. And so, you know, having myself on social media and that not being really an area that I'm very comfortable with, I was like, I got to get this content off of the internet and into people's hands. Get it big, print it, beautiful. You know, you were talking about scroll stopping. I would go to a rodeo. I would fly. I'm terrified of flying. I would fly constantly. I would fly down to Houston. There'd be a thunderstorm. I'd be wading through the mud in my boots. I get, you know, on top of the buck and shoot. A bull like cracks my camera. My hand is bleeding. I get the shot somehow. You know, package all my stuff up, get back on the scary airplane, fly home, edit the image, post it, 30 likes. And like, I did all of that for 30 likes. That's crazy. This photo cost me, you know, $1,500 to get. So that people are so transient with content. You know, there are a lot of people that just scroll by that image and didn't even bother to like it. I thought that in a book, people would really take their time and be slower with consuming the content, really look at what is it that you're looking at, you know, who is it that you're looking at, right? And why does this matter? Really pay attention to the nuances in the photos. So that's why a book was important to me, and that's kind of the medium that I want the work to be in. I want it to be in books. I've got a gallery right now. I got a museum, the Griffin Museum of Photography in Cambridge, Massachusetts. They have 12 of my prints on display there, and they're big. They're 3 feet wide. And, you know, you can kind of go there and just like stand in front of these images and really get immersed in those moments. There's a photo called Cowboy Prayer with a bunch of Pony Express riders holding hands and praying on their horses before the race. The sky is pink, and when you see it that big, you feel like you're in that prayer circle. You feel like you're actually involved in that moment. So I'm very excited to have the content be tangible and real. Somebody asked me just yesterday if I was going to do NFTs. And I was like, absolutely not. And I was like, no, the rodeo is the most analog experience that you can have. It's the furthest thing from being on a computer that you can do. And I'm not going to take that beautiful, immersive, real experience and put it in an NFT for people to buy. One, two, when I sell a photo, I'll sell my prints to art buyers, or I'll sell a print to Apple. When Apple buys a print, or Apple licenses a photo for a year, the talent in the photo gets paid as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I sold a print. I sold I licensed a photo to Apple for thousands of dollars, and the person in the photo got thousands of dollars as well. When I sell an NFT and somebody owns the work, the talent doesn't get anything. The person in the photo doesn't get a dime. Mm-hmm. And why would I do that? That doesn't make any sense to me. So real world, real experiences. Yeah. That's what I'm about with this work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is something that I've tried to, it can be a sticky situation where, there are people who are capturing moments in their own lives of, horse people, and, brands are approaching them like, oh, like, can I feature your image? Can I do this? Can I do that? And then they end up using it for God knows what ever they want, ads, making money. And it's like, oh, they posted me and it got 100 likes. It's like, but how many dollars? How many dollars did you get? Like, that's important. And it's possible, y'all. It's possible. So I try to say, yeah, congratulations, good job. But you can get paid for this, right?
You should be getting paid. When a brand takes your content and shares it, you're making content that's valuable. You're making content that's on the level of a national brand. Mm-hmm. They pay money for those things. I just did a photo shoot the other day. It was a $20,000 photo shoot for an image to go on Instagram. The brand can go and find that image that some horse person did themselves and just post it for free, or they can pay me to kind of create that authentic scroll stopping kind of moment for them.
Right.
And if I do it, it's going to cost a lot of money. So they would rather find it for free. They would rather do that, but it's rare. It's difficult. The people aren't vetted. It's complicated and fraught for them to spend their time doing that. So in a lot of ways, they're like, we would rather have a guaranteed product and pay for it. But like, when people are just giving this stuff away, they're undercutting me. That makes me sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody should be getting paid. If you're in this space, like I said, you're special and you're rare, and that is valuable, and the best way to sort of express that value is to get money for it. So please get paid, people. If a brand wants to share your image, be like, how much?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you just said, when brands are wanting to get work from you, they know that they're going to have a guaranteed product. And it's because you have a story to tell. You package it up. You say, this is what it is. You are the creative behind it. Tell me how you kind of built this skill or this art of storytelling through your images.
It started out in the church. It really did. I grew up Church of God in Christ. We go to church 4 days a week, all day on Sunday. We had to, testify. We had to prophesy. We had to do all of this stuff in the church as young people. You had to sing in the choir. Like, it was just like, there was no moment that you volunteered for anything. It was just like, no, get up there and tell us about Pontius Pilate right now. And that's just kind of how the church operated. You had to be a public speaker. You had to be a storyteller. You had to engage people. And so that's just part of my like family heritage. That's just something that's been passed down for generations. I took it, I didn't want to be a pastor because that was just like not my lane. But I wanted to be an actor. And so I went to acting school. Like I said, I went to New York, did acting conservatory, and then acted for 6 years. And that was another part where I really refined my like storytelling chops through like improv and stand-up comedy and all of these different things that I did. I was able to kind of go like, here's a story from beginning to end, and here's the rising action, and here's the falling action, and here's the dynamics and the tone and all of these things that sort of keep people engaged over a period of time of watching one person sort of narrate. And then I took that skill set to my design career and really like even sharpened it more tightly, where it's like nobody's going to sit and listen to you do Shakespeare for 3 hours. Like, how can you really engage someone and let them know what's up in a magazine layout or in a single page of a website? How can you put all of those elements into a really quick, pithy 30-second spot? All of those things I kind of utilized and learned to do at the level of Nike, to do at the level of Adidas and big national brands. And then when I started my own brand, it just all kind of fell into place, where it was just like, I'm going to tell you the whole story of this whole rodeo in one picture and a 3-word caption. And you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it to your core.
Yeah.
But it's not accidental. It's not magic. It's a honed in skill that took years and years and years to refine. So.
Right. I listened to you on Cowboys of Dixie podcast. And I remember you saying that you were nervous to be in front of people. And so, or nervous to be getting their pictures.
Yeah.
And like going up to them and say, hey, can I take a picture of you?
Yeah.
So it surprises me that you were an actor and that like stand-up comedy, like all that stuff. Like, although we don't see Ivan now, because he's behind the camera and that's how you've constructed your brand. What kind of made that shift? Because now I'm like, what happened? You're in front of people and now you're behind the scenes. Like, what was that transition like?
I was scared when I was an actor. Every time I got on stage, I was terrified. And I was scared when I did stand up. Stand up was even scarier because those were my own words. And that was stuff that I wrote. And when it bombed, it was all my fault. I didn't have anybody to blame. And so I was scared, but I did it anyway, which is, I guess, bravery. It's just like I'm scared to get on an airplane. Oh Lord, I'm scared to get on an airplane, but I do it several times a month because it's just what I need to do. Yeah. I just get on the plane, I put on my music, and I force myself to fall asleep, and I just get through it. So that's part of my upbringing. That's kind of where I come from. That's kind of how my family raised me. Is just like, nobody care about how you feel. Get out there and go get done what you need to get done, and quit being in your feelings about it. So there's no special sauce from my past that sort of feeds right now. It was just photography was something that I owned all for my own, and nobody was forcing me to do anything. Yeah. My mama wasn't like, boy, you better get out there and take them pictures. She wasn't on me about it. And so I was like really comfortable in my photography space, where I was just like, I'm just gonna shoot exactly what I want. I'm not getting paid for this. Like, nobody is nobody is making me do this, so I'm going to go do what's enjoyable. There was a period of time where I was so uninspired with photography. I just liked to click the shutter, and that was about it. I didn't really care what I took a picture of. And so every day I would take a picture of the same bridge when I walked past it. And I ended up with hundreds of images of this bridge from the exact same spot every single day. Because I was like, this, I get to take a picture. It feels nice. There's no pressure, and I learned a lot from that moment. I started to notice a lot of different detail of like, where was the water on the bridge and what did the clouds look like? And, it was really a like a mindfulness exercise for me. I didn't really start to engage and get comfortable with people until somebody asked me last minute as a favor to go shoot a wedding for them. They were like, I need a second shooter on this wedding. Please, 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 will you help me? And I was like, okay, absolutely. I went to the wedding, and wedding people are drunk and they expect to have their picture taken, and it's a party atmosphere. And I actually ended up having a pretty good time shooting that wedding. And I did a good job, and they asked me to come back and do another one. And then before I knew it, I had my own wedding business, and I was shooting weddings every single weekend. And that made me comfortable with people. That kind of helped me get over the fear.
Yeah.
But it was still in a really like contained, specific space. And I was just kind of like, what if I could do what I do at weddings anywhere? And that was when I started to just like take my camera out into the streets of Portland every day and just like roll up on people and be like, you got the sauce. You got the sauce.
Gas them up.
I gotta get your photo, man. Look, if you could see what I was seeing right now, you would want to take a photo of you too. This is incredible. And I would just like meet anybody and just like get them engaged and get their photo. And that was what, like I said, that's what led me into rodeo. I showed up at the rodeo like that. Like, no, you did not come here in that fringe jacket, bro. No, you didn't. How dare you?
Let me get your picture. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. One of the most, like, I guess my favorite part of your story is that you didn't have it figured out in the beginning. Your beginning doesn't look like you're right now. And I feel like for a lot of young people, a lot of times they feel like they have to have it figured out and that they can't change their mind, or that they can't like say, I always thought this thing was cool, but I just never had the means. I mean, and even adults, the adult equestrians that are just now getting into horses, just now going to rodeos and going to trail rides and stuff, they're like, I wanted to do this since I was a kid. And they're just now, have the means or the opportunity to do that. So how do you kind of look back over everything you've done and say, I gave myself that permission to change and to grow?
Yeah, I just have never like chalked up an experience as a failure. I've always learned, and I can always look back and be like, man, if I wasn't an actor, I wouldn't know how to sell. And if I didn't know how to sell, I wouldn't be able to pitch to brands, So it's like, that was just a learning experience. It wasn't that I was supposed to do that the rest of my life. I was supposed to get that information and that experience and carry it on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And like I can just like draw a line through all of these experiences and say like, here's how I got here. I think that's the thing that I want a young person to know, is that like, if you switch it up, if you change your mind, if something's not working, that doesn't mean that you failed. that just means that you have got the information that you require to go to the next phase. And I look at myself now and I'm just like, I don't have it figured out at all. I don't know nothing. I still go to rodeos. I will show up at a rodeo and I'm 8 seconds and I'm Ivan McClellan. I'm the man, I'm the GOAT, and I go there and I'm so nervous I can't get out of my car sometimes. I go to a rodeo and I'm like, I'm not gonna go talk to these people. Are you crazy? like, I'm scared of horses, I'm not gonna do this. And I have to go back and do some self-work and figure out how to get out of that car and go do what I gotta go do. So I don't have it figured out. I haven't anywhere near achieved what I hope to achieve. I'm not even close. And I plan to, do rodeo until I die. I plan on doing this work forever.
Yeah.
But it's not going to always be my primary focus. There are other projects, there are other stories that I want to tell. I want to do a thing about I want to do something about Black church, because that's so pivotal to like how I grew up. My grandma was the accountant at the church. And so she knew all the secrets.
Crazy.
Yeah.
My granddad was too.
Was he really? Yeah. So you know how it is. She knew everything. She knew everything. She knew where the money was going. She knew who was tithing and who wasn't tithing. She knew everybody's business. She knew everybody's secrets. It was like the accountant was the most important person in the church in a lot of ways. And so I just got exposure to the church, I think in a different way than other people did. And I'm like, I want to go document the church, the real church, and how it operates, and so to share that with the world in some way. But I don't really know what that looks like, and that's an area that's not going to be like Black Rodeo. That's something that everybody knows about, and
right.
So doing it in an interesting way will be a challenge. But that's kind of the point, is that it's constantly a process and it's constantly an evolution. And I can't go into that church project like, oh, this is something brand new. It's like, no, I carry years of experience with me.
Yeah.
And it'll be easier than the last thing that I did.
Yeah. So have you been on a horse, Ivan?
I have, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. Because you said that you were scared of him. I was just checking.
Yeah, I've been on a horse several times. I grew up going to Benjamin Ranch in Kansas City, and we would ride horses there.
Okay, good.
And then I've ridden several times in this project as a photographer. I wrote with Charles Sampson, and we actually herded steer. We herded 50 steer to get them into the chutes for a team roping event, which was an experience. I got yelled at a lot. I did a lot of stuff wrong, but I was riding a horse. I was doing my thing.
Right.
But I never pretend, and I don't even dress like I'm a cowboy. I'm not. That's not me. I don't know what I'm doing, and I have to be on a real gentle horse, a real gentle, real patient horse, because that's just not my skill set. My kids, though, they're learning to ride.
Yeah.
My daughter wants to be a barrel racer, so she's getting pretty good at it.
Well, good. I think it's amazing how we get to I guess build the world a little bit differently for the next generation, right? Because she's not gonna have that like, oh, I didn't even know you existed. She's not gonna have that. She's like, yeah.
I don't think that my kids know that white cowboys exist.
Right.
Like, seriously, I don't think they're aware of that.
Yeah, they're gonna have an element of surprise that other people are not gonna even understand.
Yeah, for sure.
They just have a different reality. There's a guy on the trail ride scene over here in North Carolina. We call him Picture Man. I don't know his name, His name is Picture Man. But he rides normally in the front of the trail and will capture the, oh, we're about to go through water. All right, let Picture Man go ahead. And he'll go up. And I mean, he is literally chronicling these trail rides, people coming off, people going down the hill, like, and he has all of these archives of, all these different events. And I always thought that it was just, not to be super deep all the time, but, not many people are doing this work. Not many people are capturing history, whether it be in conversation like podcasts or social media or pictures. Not a lot of people are doing that. So how does that, or do you feel a sense of like responsibility when you are out doing this work?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, shout out to Picture Man. I love that story. Picture Man. I gotta find out who that is, because
I'll see if I can find his government. Because I'm like, anybody know Picture Man real name? You have those cousins like, no, his name is Boo Boo. Like, I don't know his real name.
Exactly. I ran into that with Ouncie Mitchell. He's a bull rider, and I like had to put in an invoice for Ouncie, and I was like, Ouncie, what's your government? And he was like, Ouncie Mitchell. I was like, yeah, but what's your real name? And he was like, oh, Demetrius Allen. I was like, okay.
Oh wow, it's a totally different name. What?
Yeah, I run into that all the time. But Picture Man, Cowboy World is another one. Love Cowboy World. He's just every rodeo, and we just become friends because we're kind of doing the same thing. Responsibility, absolutely. I mean, I feel a sense of responsibility to be accurate, to be respectful, to really not be pedestrian in this work, and not just be like, oh, went to a rodeo, took some pictures, here are some people. It's like, no, here are these people, and here are their names, and here's why they matter. They're out there competing. I owe them at least a tag. That's at least what I order. If I do take a picture of somebody and I don't know who they are, I quickly am in the community, so I quickly find out who they are. People like, oh, that's who that is, and I make sure that they get tagged. And if we end up working together, I make sure that I connect them with brands and stuff like that. But I wouldn't say that it's like crushing. It's not like an overwhelming sense of responsibility. It's just like how I've always been in my photography. Like, even with street photography, there's a lot of street photographers that'll just like roll up on you, take your picture and throw it up on the internet. And like, I've done a little bit of that, but for the most part, I try to get to know people and try to get permission to take their photo. Because that's just who I am. That's just like the Kansas boy in me. I'm not brash or aggressive about my photography. I'm very, very gentle and very respectful in what I do.
Yeah. And I think that's what it's part of your brand, and it's what is so inviting about the images that you share with us. Being able to see what's going on, but it's not in a way that's like taking advantage of the moment, or like, let me do this real fast.
Yeah.
You don't get those kind of vibes from your images. So that is definitely something that I can appreciate when I'm able to see them.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's a work in progress, but when I see people that are really, really caring and really gentle in the way that they work. Kennedy Carter takes photos of Black cowboys. She's got a series called Ride and Sucker Free, and it's just incredible. And you could just tell that she knows these folks, and that she she has been invited into into that community. And I think she's kind of done it as good as anybody that I've seen do it. And I in a lot of ways try to emulate her work. She's from North Carolina, I think, but yeah, phenomenal photographer.
I'm gonna have to look her up.
Yeah, for sure. Look her up. She took pictures of Beyonce. Like she's next level.
Okay. I see it. When you talk about being on the road and flying all over the place and getting to see all these different people, what do you look forward to the most when coming back home?
Oh man, my wife really holds it down when I'm away. I don't give her a lot of notice a lot of times. So like, I'm going to Nashville. And she's like, okay, go, come home with some money. Like, so I shout out to her. She's really got an enormous amount of patience and is a huge supporter of the work. I mean, she makes it go. And when I get back home, I look forward to when I get to the airport. My kids always meet me at the gate. And they come running, and it's like a movie, they run and jump in my arms, and
you fall to your knees.
Yeah. And all the people in the airport are like, oh, and I'm like, look at me, I got a family, I'm a dad, look at me. People love me, that's the thing that I look most forward to. Like I was just on the road for 10 days. I just got back home Sunday, and I was on the phone with the kids like 3 times a day. We're on Zoom. Like they don't know how to hold a conversation. So we just sort of like sit there on the phone, but not really saying much. And then I call them at night and we do our prayers and read a book. And, I sit there and watch them brush their teeth and stuff like that. So it feels like I'm at home. It feels like I'm part of things, but I'm really not. I'm in a hotel somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And coming home and getting back into that routine and like doing that stuff with them for real just really warms my heart, and it really makes me feel grounded and comfortable. I got to get charged up and come back home and read some stories and do some family stuff, cook some pasta, do the stuff that I need to do to make the family go before I go back out there on the road. Like it's really important for me to check in and make sure everybody's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I know that you like can't say that you have a favorite in public, but of the work that you have done, what do you think are like some of your favorite either moments or images or pieces or productions?
I'll say it. I ain't scared.
Okay. Well, I don't want nobody to come at you because
no, I'm not worried.
They were not your favorite.
My favorite person to photograph is Courtney Solomon. She's a barrel racer. I think she's 12. Now. I started shooting her when she was like 9 or 10. She's a little kid. And she is just so easy to photograph. She's so like confident and good at what she does. At the MLK Bill Pickett Rodeo in Denver, last month, she won the junior barrel racing buckle and she won the ladies barrel racing buckle at like 11 or 12. Like she's incredible. She's like a prodigy at horse riding. And my favorite image of her was when I first met her. It was the first day that I met her. I was at in Hempstead, Texas, with her and her mama, Kenesha Jackson. And they were like, what do you want us to do? And I was like, I don't know, like cowgirl stuff. I can't really tell you what to do. They were on their horses and they were just like riding around in a field, and it was about to thunderstorm. And Kenesha was like, we got to get this done because it's about to storm in like 4 minutes. And I was like, okay, weatherman, you know what's up. And so I was like, okay, Courtney, here's what I want you to do. And I got down on the ground. I said, I want you to ride your horse right by me, but don't hit me. And she's like, I'm not gonna hit you. Like, don't worry about that. and she's riding her horse. She's not looking at me. She's looking straight ahead. Her braids are blowing back in the wind because the storm is coming in. The clouds behind her are so fluffy and textured. And I'm shooting up at her, so she looks like this like hero. And that right there is my favorite shot. It's every time that I look at that shot, I'm like, if I took one photo in this whole thing, that one would be worth it.
Yeah.
Like it just was such a moment. It's such a vibe. She's so like connected with her horse. She's like paying attention because she doesn't want to hit me. Like it just looks great. And the thing about a lot of these photos is that I'm in the photo, you know, because on the other side of what you're looking at, there's me. And I can sort of use those as like a diary, as like memory recall of like where I was, what I was feeling, what I was doing through another person. Yeah, so that's my favorite image.
Yeah, nobody's gonna fault you for having her as a favorite. Can't get mad at a kid.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a very good answer.
I know.
Well, thank you so much for coming on here and just sharing a part of your story. I feel like it's very important, even, you know, the opportunity to consume your work, but also to know what's going on behind the camera and who this person is, who's sharing these stories that a lot of us are so passionate about. So I really appreciate your time today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been really great talking to you, and I really enjoy this podcast. So I'm glad to be on it.
Thank you for tuning in to Young Black Equestrians, the podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast player as well as over on YouTube. And you know what? Do me a favor, leave a review over on Apple Podcasts. Doing that makes it so that this platform and this content gets shared with Black equestrians all over the world. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and I will see you next time.